This is the new Blackmagic Micro Studio Camera 4K G2. And the micro in the name is no lie. This is an incredibly small and versatile camera that packs a pretty big punch, especially considering the price. It boasts a 13-stop 4K dual native sensor with micro four thirds mount, 12G micro SDI in and out, Blackmagic RAW recording, and a body so small that it can pretty much be mounted anywhere. This is a camera that would work well in a wide range of workflows like TV production, broadcast, news, sports, education, conference centers, and houses of worship, to name a few. So in this video, we'll take a quick look at some of what it can do. The Micro Studio camera weighs in at 0.3 kilograms and can fit in the palm of my hand. And if we took a look around the unit, you'll see that on the left, it has two 12G micro SDI ports. Above that, there's a 3.5mm mic input. If we flip the unit over to the right side, there's a HDMI port that can be used for monitoring and accessing the menu. This HDMI won't display a clean feed though, so that is important to note. Then there's a USB-C port that can be used for recording to external SSD drives, or it can be used with a USB-C to Ethernet adapter for controlling the camera via a network. This port can also be used to plug in optional focus and zoom demands to allow for full lens control, just like larger studio cameras. Then at the bottom, there's a 12-volt DC power input port. Just ahead of that, there's all the buttons to control the device. Recorders at the top, then there's these navigation buttons in the middle, and then a power button at the bottom. On the back of the camera, there's an LPE6 battery slot. And in our test, this fully charged SWIT battery lasted 1 hour and 21 minutes. On top of the camera, there's a battery release button, a 1/4 inch mounting point, a microphone, and a tally light. Finally, on the bottom, there's 3 more 1/4 inch mounting points, which is nice for versatility. And I can see a lot of people rigging this camera in all sorts of places, using tripods of course, but with articulating arms and super clamps. I can see this being mounted to cars and drones and on gimbals, and generally in tight places because of the small form factor. Now, one of the things I wanted to know was how this camera would perform out on location. And I've been using it quite a bit recently. And for one of my tests, I brought it to the in-house media production team at my church, and we used it on one of our Sunday live productions. I tried it in 2 locations. The first was mounted on this speaker bracket arm behind our stage for an elevated perspective that we hadn't tried before at my church, mainly because our other cameras would be way too big and heavy to mount up there safely. The second location was inside our drum booth, so we could get a clearer image of our drummer. Typically, we've been filming through the perspex, which creates some unwanted reflections, so it was nice to get a consistently clean image. Both of those shots were only possible because of how small this camera was. But because of the small size, it can present some challenges to overcome. Now, this may sound a little silly, but I did miss having a dedicated monitor. Now, I was wirelessly viewing the Blackmagic menus and operating system using my phone and the Holyland Mars 4K connected to the camera's HDMI port, and then the micro SDI feed was sent through to our A10 production Studio 4K for our live stream. Now, while viewing the monitor on my phone totally worked, it was a little disorientating framing up as my phone and the camera were separate. Next time, I'd mount a monitor like a Blackmagic Video Assist onto the body to help me during setup. And then for a low light test, I also used this camera in a live music gig environment. I placed the camera in the middle of the room, capturing a full wide shot of all the band members. Then this camera was actually great here too because of the small footprint. It meant that when I mounted it on this iFootage round base monopod, it didn't massively block the view of the people sitting behind, which is great. And because of the same micro four thirds sensor as the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, it did well in this room, producing a nice detailed image. Finally, we also used the Micro Studio camera in our most recent ProAV TV live stream. We had it set up in our behind the scenes shot, capturing our mixing desk area. In this instance, we fed the SDI feed into our Blackmagic HD8 ISO switcher, and the HDMI port was fed into a confidence monitor that I was able to glance at. Now, I know none of these shots are going to win any awards because they were some quick and dirty setups, but it did pretty well regardless. And I'm also not going to spend a long time speaking about the sensor specifications because it's the same 3840 by 2160 micro four thirds sensor that was used in the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. And all you have to do is have a quick search on YouTube to see all of the beautiful footage captured by that camera. Just like the Pocket 4K camera, the Micro Studio Camera can access a wide range of affordable lenses natively from different manufacturers because of its Micro Four Thirds lens mount. And of course this means that it can be adapted to work with EF mount lenses as well. And just like all of Blackmagic's cameras, the Micro Studio Camera benefits from being in Blackmagic's wider ecosystem. When connected to a compatible ATEM switcher, the camera can be controlled over HDMI and SDI to trigger recordings and receive tally information, as well as change settings like frame rate, gain, white balance, tint, contrast, and so on. This is a big plus, and I can definitely see this camera being mounted in hard to reach places where it could be challenging to keep adjusting the settings by going to the physical camera. One thing I do wish this camera had though was Bluetooth built in. Now, I own a few other Pocket cameras and I'm always adjusting the settings via the Bluetooth on my phone app, so it was a bit of a miss for me here. What's nice though is that through the USB-C expansion port, you can plug in that USB-C to Ethernet adapter that I mentioned earlier to have the same controls over Ethernet. Blackmagic have also released an API for people who want to customize the control further. So all in all, the Blackmagic Micro Studio Camera 4K G2 is a really capable, compact and versatile camera that packs a pretty big punch considering its form factor and price. Having powerful broadcast connections, this camera is best suited to live production environments and times when a small footprint is important. There aren't many other cameras like this on the market, so I think this is well worth considering. But what do you think? Could you see yourself incorporating a 4K G2 into your workflow? Let us know down in the comments below. And as always, if you'd like to buy one for yourself, you can head over to proav.co.uk. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.